はアルとマイクみたいになりたい。でも電話してくれない。オークランドとブックレンドから世界チャンピオンバーチャルプローズ始まるよ。バーチャルプローズ。
To my motherfucking man, 50 grand, the alcoholic man, inject a tall can in his bloodstream if he can. Biggie Smalls, the 50 stroker, MC provoker, chocolate tie smoker. I like to max and Maximas and Acuras. Your girl butt cheeks, I'm smacking. The raw rapper, spine snapper with the little, cause all my lap a shot, the ball, I ain't your fucking comforter. And if I ever fall in love, I bet I'm fucking her. Ask the if I didn't choke her. If she try to front, then I drop the chuck.
Episode 82 of That World Champion Sound Virtual Pros Podcast. My name is Al, aka Henny Omega, aka the Bandman, aka Bushi Nagata, aka Dr. Keith Drapinski, aka Two Phone Scorpio, aka Super Brazy, aka Pete Gas Break Dip Dip, aka No Speak Broke Boy, Kami Shinsuke Stack a Mill Up. And with me, one half of the Holy Scheming Army, one half of Blemolition, one half of the Heavenly Thotties, one half of the Bread Hunters, my main oos, Mike.
Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? It's Mike, a.k.a. Matt McGriddle, a.k.a. Nick Lockwinkle, a.k.a. Steel Gold Steam Odin, a.k.a. D'Lo Brown Bag.
Today's topic, believe it or not, these are Alan Mike's favorite shoot angles of all time. Hit us on Twitter and Instagram at VRTL Pros. Hit us on SoundCloud. Hit that heart. You know I like it. Hit us on iTunes. We're 2 reviews away from 75, and I like my round numbers, so just give us 5 stars, please, if you're on there. Hit us on Spotify, too, if you have that, and if you want to participate, email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. We got a handful of emails, Mike. You mind starting off with that first one?
Yes, a very good, manageable amount of emails this week. Yeah. It's great. First one is from Ian. It's no subject. He says, hey, Mike and Al, I don't know if you've seen it, but Conrad Thompson recently filed a trademark for Dead Man Talking podcast. How excited are you to hear The Undertaker shill for dick pills in mortgage refinancing? I hope at least one virtual bro is willing to listen to let us know if he tells us how it felt to stand outside the Cavs locker room in full Undertaker gear only to get snubbed by LeBron. Thanks, Ian, a.k.a. Victim and Steve Payne, a.k.a. Trainyard Blue Meanie, a.k.a. Bulldoze Nakano, a.k.a. Mad Balls Mahoney, elbow dropping many suckers, demonstrating my styles clash. It's all very creative there, Ian. I'm pretty curious about this podcast because, one, I always tend to forget that The Undertaker kind of sounds like a wiener when he's not in character. He doesn't have like a strong speaking voice, so and he's like an old man, and like I said on the last episode, I'm gonna have to listen for at least the first few episodes just to see if he drops some problematic shit. But yeah, I really hope this podcast actually materializes, and this is not just some kind of speaking tour, because I will not pay money to see The Undertaker speak, but I'll definitely tune into a podcast.
I'm a little curious too, if only because I saw a clip of him, I believe it was in the UK, and he was talking about his wife, and he was on the verge of tears. And so I'm wondering now, like, what's the over-under on episodes where he just, like, breaks down and cries? I don't know, man. Undertaker's so believable to me because I grew up with him, so I think it would be weird to hear him cry. Possibly. I'm tuning in for that. Next email is from my man, Dan. Oh, P.S., Dan, the fucking video you suggested, it got taken down. I would have added it, but it's no longer there. Anyway. It's titled New Truthing. Hey guys, great last episode. Can't wait to hear what the next year brings. Sadly, it's already peaked with a straight-ahead entrant into the 2019 Shame Cup. Yes, I'm talking about leukemia truthers who have come out of the woodwork to claim that Roman Reigns was not suffering from the disease because A, he has hair, B, is buff, and C, it's a work. This is a whole other level of fucking weirdos, and I need to hear your views on it. Also, is Batista coming back cool or just bad? It's bad, right? I know he's great on Twitter, but ooh boy. No AKAs because they take me decades to think up, and really, I should be at work right now. This is at least a Final Four entrant, Mike. I think we're in agreement here. Of course it's not real, but I don't know. I feel like a shithead in saying this, but if it's revealed like a decade later that it was fake, I don't think I'd be surprised.
Oh boy.
Would you?
Yeah, man. I'd be super surprised.
I wouldn't put it past him.
If they faked it, they would definitely play it up a lot more, I think. It would not... I mean, you know, given the first episode where he announced it, they kind of did, like, ravel it into the storyline, I guess you would say. But then they dropped it, and it was never really brought up again. But I think if they really faked it, they would have made it real dramatic. Like, he was on his like, last... I don't know, his last dying breath, and then came back or something like that. But yeah, the people on Twitter that are not only don't believe he had cancer, but are very confident about it, and like like approaching Dave Meltzer in like a confident tone, like, oh yeah, of course it's fake. And it's just like, holy shit, man. After seeing those, I was kind of like, maybe I'll just go back to being a casual fan of wrestling, because it's just like I said on Twitter, I know it's WWE is supposed to market towards the lowest common denominator because they willingly let go of their money for like garbage shit. And I'm usually fine with that because everybody needs the type of entertainment. But this is like, they really should aim a little higher, I think.
Guys, I'm just kidding, by the way. I just wanted to see like how it would feel if I was like in the final four of the Shame Cup, and it didn't feel good. Of course, this isn't fake. Also, Batista coming back is super cool. Like him dragging Ric Flair's carcass outside of his dressing room was so fucking funny. He didn't wear the 4 polos, one on top of the other yet. I'm waiting for that, but when that comes along with the True Religion jeans, I'm all the way on board. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm cool with it because I think it's a thing that's going to end at WrestleMania. I don't think Batista's going to stick around, and that's pretty cool that he's still willing to do it after they've kind of been, I wouldn't say dicks to him for the past few years, but they're just kind of like overlooking him. Like, I think he wanted them to get involved with Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were like, fuck off.
Yeah.
And then it became like one of the biggest movies of all time, and just then they kept on dicking him around about a comeback. But so if it's a one-time thing, it'll probably be pretty cool. And honestly, I'd rather him wrestle Triple H than an actual full-time wrestler and then get beat by Triple H.
I think you're next, bro.
Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot what we were doing here. I thought I was being interviewed. Listener Andrew sent us in some stuff that I can't disclose on the air, I don't think. Maybe he wanted us to, but
no.
Either way, yeah. But thank you, Andrew, for sending in the content. Who's this guy?
Wu-Tang for life, man.
Yeah. Steezus Christ, his name is.
Oh, hell
Says,
yeah.
I'm not good with subject titles, so question for the show. A couple of weeks ago, I went with my girlfriend and family to an ICW show in Woodside, New York, where the main event was Nick Gage versus Scott Steiner. It seemed that the finish was fucked because Scott Steiner was throwing potatoes at Mr. Gage, which is no surprise from the god of ultraviolence, but it ended with Scott not being able to make it back into the ring after being put through a table. Gage began to cut a promo thanking the fans and shitting on Big Papa Pump, and that's when Scott threw a shoot chair at Gage. My question here is, have you ever seen wrestlers go at it at a live show? Thanks for doing what you do, MDK all fucking day. Steezus Christ, a.k.a. Zandy Orton with a bar KO, a.k.a. Rob Dam Grams, a.k.a. Old Saint Nick Gage. I have never... One of my shoot answers for the later segment is probably the closest I've ever come, but I'll get into that later. But outside of that incident, I don't think, at least to my knowledge, I've never seen wrestling get really real. I mean, it's my dream. I would love to see that happen, but unfortunately, I've never seen it happen. I've seen a guy injure himself in a match and then have to pretend he wasn't injured, and that was weird and awkward, but never people actually just going at it.
Yeah, I too have never seen a shoot in person. I've seen some horrifying injuries. I was there when Hiromu broke his neck. I was there when Kota Ibushi got concussed by Will Ospreay. It's not good. Also, I was there when Buster Posey snapped his leg at the plate. That was a bummer of a fucking day. So, I've been witness to some pretty gross shit, but never a shoot. I think I would trade one shoot for 3 of those things, personally. Next up is from Jeffrey, titled Shootangles and New Noah Look. Sup, Dirtbags? So irrespective of the 2 wrestling-related deaths this week, One semi-tangential, I guess, but considering Jungle Boy is Luke Perry's son and all, y'all asked about Shootangles. The biggest one that sticks out in my memory is Shinya Hashimoto versus Naoya Ogawa, just because it led to 2 actual shoot incidents in consecutive January 4th Tokyo Dome shows. Wrestling World 1999, where Riki Choshu looked like he was about to throw hands, and Wrestling World 2000, which started out with Ogawa and Hashimoto shooting, but then Takashi Iizuka and Kazunari Murakami got into it with Iizuka coming out on top, a feat he'd repeat in another shoot on 4/7 2000 over Murakami. All of this would eventually lead to the at first kayfabe but then real firing of Hashimoto from New Japan, leading to the formation of Pro Wrestling 01 during the time when Japanese wrestling was becoming some sort of wild frontier after Misawa and company dipped from All Japan to Noah, causing a wild chain reaction all over the biz. It was indicative of a time when Inoki had his vision for New Japan, but it wasn't what New Japan necessarily wanted it to be. What a weird time that was. On that note, have you seen the new look Noah logo? I understand wanting to modernize, but erasing any trace of Misawa out of it ain't it. And neither is this new look that reminds me of a local CBS affiliate station. Stay tuned for young Sheldon after the GHC heavyweight title match. Yours, etc., Jeffrey, aka Strong Style Sorry, aka King Kong Blunty, aka Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, aka one half of Ten Kokaji. Yeah, I made the joke that the new Noah logo looked like an Asian food truck. It's not bad. It's just like, I don't think wrestling when I see it. So it's not offensive, but it's not that good. I think it's a downgrade.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It doesn't really look like a wrestling logo, but I don't know. I don't have any relationship with Noah, so I don't really care if they change their logo. And I guess if you're trying to get eyes on you, even if people don't like it, it'll get eyes on it at least. And so it's kind of doing its job, because I've heard more people talking about Noah in the last day than I have in a very long time.
That's true. Well, that was the last email. If you want to participate, always hit us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. 2-man scramble time. My first 2 topics, kind of some housekeeping. But next Monday, March 11th, 5 p.m. West Coast, 8 p.m. East Coast, the second collaboration between the Pros and Drug Dogs. That is a tongue twister, man. Dylan, I don't know. Anyway, we're working on a new shirt. It's to commemorate the 25th anniversary of a very special night in wrestling. So please be there ASAP. We can't guarantee that you'll get one if you're there later rather than sooner. So just be there at 5 o'clock West Coast time, please. Anything to add, Mike?
I'll add more to it later, so this doesn't end on, or this doesn't begin with a down note. But do you have a Roomba or something, Al?
I don't have a Roomba.
Do you have a Hot Pot microwave?
I have a microwave. It's not on. I did hear the beeping. That might have been the garbage, but
okay.
What's up? What does it sound like on your end?
No, I just heard beeping, and I was like, I think my robot vacuum cleaner makes beeping like that. So I was hoping you were using it right now.
Next topic. So this Saturday, I'll be heading to Pro Wrestling Revolution to see Jun Akiyama's first foray into America. If you're there, please say hi. I've gotten messages like after shows where people have been like, yo, I wanted to say hi, but I was just too like, whatever. Listen, I'm 5'6", 150 pounds. I'm not threatening. I won't fucking be a dick to you. You just dap me up. It's not a big deal. We can watch Tajiri. We can watch Super Crazy and just have a good time. Just say what's up if you're there and you recognize me. Mike, are you going to be there?
I'm not going to be in California for this. Although I kept hearing rumors that he was going to be at WrestleMania weekend, but I guess that's not happening.
Damn, that sucks. Why wouldn't he be there? It's so funny, though, because if you follow Ultimo Dragon, they're definitely on some terrorist shit. Jun Akiyama was at the Golden Gate Bridge, and so, like, it'd be my dream to take Jun to Vallejo and just, like, ghost ride some shit. But we'll see. We'll see. My next topic. So, sadly, Arn Anderson, he was recently relieved of his duties at the New York office. And I was reminded that Arn Anderson's real name is actually Marty, which I think that might be the biggest mismatch in pro wrestling history when it comes to like names and faces. Like off the top of your head, Can you think of like any crazy mismatches like this?
I'm always surprised when I see wrestlers' real names, but I don't remember them. Like, I can't rattle one off the top of my head, but it's always I completely forgot that Arn Anderson's name wasn't Arn Anderson.
Yeah, right?
It's such a strange one because you would assume Arn is short for Arnold or something. So to give yourself a fake name that's like a obscure abbreviation for a full name is just, it's pretty next level, honestly. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I still can't believe that Billy Gunn's real name is Kip Sop. I don't believe that for 1 second.
That's a good one.
Also, Sabu being Terry Brunk. I always thought that was like a fucking like joke, but that's actually what his name is. It's kind of crazy. Seeing that his friend is Terry Funk, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Anyway, my last topic of the night. So it seems like for the past couple years, like wrestling jewelry has like really taken off in the marketplace. Like people have like linked us to Asuka mask rings. I know New Japan, they dropped a Smell the Blade like necklace pendant for the people that want to breathe with Jay White. So I was wondering, Mike, if you had to develop a piece of jewelry based off of wrestling and you had to wear it in like your daily life, what would you make?
Would it have to be referencing like a specific wrestler?
Yeah, ideally.
Huh. Fuck, that makes it a lot harder. Because I think if you get away with like doing like a crazy like Gucci Mane style chain of all diamonds, but have it be like a barbed wire bat or something, I think you can get away with that. But referencing a real wrestler, maybe a chain like that, but instead of a barbed wire bat, maybe Macho Man's glasses.
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one.
I'd rock those. I would want some fucking line mark cufflinks personally.
Didn't they make those?
If they did, I need them. I want them. I want them real fucking bad.
I feel like they did make those.
I would rock a FMW pendant, no doubt about it. There was a Hayabusa necklace, but it was like H. And I wasn't down with H. I'm down with EG, but not H. But yeah, that was my last one.
Okay, so I have... Oh man, my page changed. Okay, so I have... first, I just wanted to update from the last episode that at the end of the main segment, when we were going over our predictions, I said I completely forgot one. I remembered it, and it's lame, but I just want to get it out there just in case it happens, because I think it has a good chance. But this is 1994 was 25 years ago, and 1994 was, of course, the night the line was crossed. So I have a solid feeling we are going to see probably the saddest ECW reunion ever in August, because the night the line was crossed was in August. Huh. So yeah, I mean, House of Hardcore is already kind of has that vibe, but I think they're gonna really go all out in August this year, and it's just gonna be I don't know, it's gonna be a sad display, but I look forward to it if it happens.
If the Baldies are there, it could be good. It could be good.
Okay. Also, the rest of my stuff is mostly reviews and road reports, and then a serious topic. But the Fire Pro, it came out. The Fire Promoter came out, and it's everything I wanted it to be. It's fucking great. If you guys don't have it, if you have Fire Pro and you didn't get the DLC, or if you're still on the fence about Fire Pro or something, the best thing I can say is well, first, it's basically management of the ring from the final Fire Pro game for Game Boy Advance. It's just a little more beefed up, but if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like if you played the EWR computer game, it's kind of like that, but with actual characters, and it's pretty amazing. You can put in all your own characters and all the own promotions, so not only are you like controlling your own promotion, but you know, you just have like this big ecosystem of all these other wrestlers that you know, either are real life or weirdo things. Like, you know, for instance, I have Borat and Joey's World Tour, and I just downloaded Draymond Green. That's the only that's the only athlete I downloaded. I was just like, that's pretty funny. Just if the one athlete would be Draymond Green, because I don't even know why you would make that guy in the first place. But it's so yeah, it's cool to have that, and then like look over into other promotions and see that like WWE picked up Naito, and that the Freight Train from $5 Wrestling is like the Triple Crown champion of some weird promotion. So it's pretty sweet. I would suggest anybody get it if they're into that kind of like management simulation of wrestling. I think a few people thought it was going to be like 100% control where you just booked your own events and you didn't have obstacles to overcome. But you totally have to like keep your promotion in business and not lose all your money and go bankrupt and shit like that. And you have to like scout talent. You can't just pick up every single person you want and stuff like that. But so if you enjoy doing that stuff, it's way better than any WWE universe I've ever played. It's top of the line for me.
I just can't get over imagining Draymond Green crying to the referee like fucking Shinjiro Otani after every 2 count. That's real funny to me.
Yeah, I haven't used him yet, so I gotta see what kind of moveset he has. Because usually when people are weirdos like that and make weird characters, they're pretty spot on with like what kind of moveset they would have. So he has to have one like the crying moves. He would have to.
I would think so. Also, this sounds great, but I cannot be bothered as Tetris 99 is holding a tournament, I believe, in 2 days, where I think if you finish within the top 999 in wins, you get like $10 in Nintendo points. So I'm training hard, Mike. I'm sorry.
This is like preliminaries for Al. He just wins this, and who knows? He might be a millionaire. By the end of 2019, he'd be going esports pro Al. Just playing Tetris 99. I don't know if that would fill out the Staples Center like I think StarCraft does, but who knows?
Someone asked me, they're like, if you could really, really go pro, would you do it? And I can say from the bottom of my heart that I absolutely would try my hardest to go professional if like I could really get there. I'm obsessed right now.
Also, I saw Fighting with My Family, the movie about Paige.
Yeah.
And it was, first off, if you guys don't know, it was directed and written by Stephen Merchant, who Stephen Merchant's basically Ricky Gervais's partner in The Office and pretty much any Ricky Gervais project. He also did Hello Ladies for HBO. Basically, this dude has never done anything bad that I know of. So I was like, at worst, it could still be tolerable. And that's pretty much what it is. It's not a movie I would say go out and run out to the theaters and see it. But if you watch it on Netflix, you'd probably be like, I didn't really waste my time too bad. It has like a real high percentage on Rotten Tomatoes too, like 92%, which is like, that's like Oscar territory basically. And it's not like that. I think it's just one of those movies where you can't totally hate on it. So it just got kind of like, mildly favorable reviews by everybody. I did see, I forgot to screenshot it so I could read some of it on the air, but we did find one review that was like a real fucking neckbeard kind of guy saying how like Paige is a slut and he doesn't understand how WWE can make a movie about such a lazy wrestler and just stuff like that. And it was something, but no, it's a good movie. It's still a WWE movie. Like it has that feel that this would definitely be straight to DVD if The Rock wasn't involved. It has that kind of like all the score is just like that canned music that they went to like the public domain site and just like use the same shit that like YouTube people use for their music. There are a couple scenes in it that are very much resemble a real movie. It's not all the scenes, but there are a few where you're like, oh, like this is actually well acted and shot and everything, but it's not the whole movie. It has its moments. If you guys are looking for super realism, I wouldn't suggest seeing it because it's a real condensed story of Paige being like an unknown teen in the shit town she grew up in, and suddenly NXT calls and is like, hey, we would like you to try out. And then she tries out and gets the job, and then she's in it for like 6 months and she has like one match in NXT, and then she gets called up to WWE and wins the belt. And that part they do pretty much beat for beat. And I think a lot of the other scenes are beat for beat from that documentary that came out a few years ago or whenever the fuck it was. But they're, everything in between's not really like that. And they do the whole thing where they acknowledge that wrestling is fake throughout the whole movie. And then the last match versus AJ Lee, they kind of leave it up in the air. Like, is this real? And it's like, of course it's not fucking real. You just spent the whole entire movie saying how wrestling was fake. They go over receipts. They use that as a big plot line for a while, which is like the most insider dirty term that they use. But, it's enjoyable. You can watch it with, your teen family and even like your parents or whatever. It's not like that offensive or anything. It's a decent movie. It's, if you're a sensitive person, you'll get sad at scenes. So it's fun for the whole family, but, I just would not suggest actually going to the movie theaters to see it.
If it's on Netflix, I give it a peep.
It has a very strong I'm going to be on Netflix soon vibe. So
okay.
I'm sure it's going to be there, at least Amazon Prime for free. It's going to be on something for free, that's for sure. I also went to AAW and MLW since the last time we recorded. We're not going too long, but I'll make this very short. AAW was a couple weeks ago. It was, I forgot the name of the show, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Something with war in it or something like that. But anyways, it was the most packed I've ever seen that Logan Square Auditorium. I feel like they added seats somehow, and it was just, there was so many fucking people there, and it was like some real crammed in elbow to elbow shit. And I chose to sit in the the regular seats with my girlfriend because that's what she's into. And it was a fun show.
Not about that balcony life, it sounds like. No.
Yeah, she doesn't like it up there. She's not into that shit. Yeah, I don't know. She said she was more fun down in the old seats watching wrestling, but I don't know. But yeah, it was a good show. Basically, if you heard about the show, you probably heard The Art of War. That's the name I was trying to think of. But the Young Bucks came out at the end, and it was like a big surprise. And like the lights, it was during the main event was the LAX versus the Lucha Brothers versus Myron Reed and AR Fox. And like 3/4 through the match, the lights go out, and then they come up, and the Young Bucks are in the ring or whatever, and the crowd fucking went ape shit. It was pretty cool to see how nuts the crowd went over these dudes that would have probably just been in Chicago anyways, like a year ago. but it was pretty cool to see. It was 2 weeks ago, so I just I don't really have much I remembered because I don't take notes or anything. But it was a good show. It was fun as usual. I kind of hope that it's never that crowded again. Honestly, it was a lot to deal with. Like it was hard to maneuver to get beers and stuff like that. And as you'll know in my next road report, all I care about is drinking beer at wrestling. So if something deters me from doing that, I get a little upset. but so check that show out. It was good. Then I went to MLW last weekend with listener Brady, and it was in this place called Cicero Stadium, which I still can't really figure out what exact kind of venue it is. It looks like it could be a basketball court, but it also looks like it might be a little too short to be a basketball court. So it's just like one of those utility sports centers, I guess you would say. But they have like bleacher seats and they have floor seats, so it is kind of like a really mini tiny stadium. So it's pretty sweet. It's definitely a pretty sweet venue for wrestling. It was I would say mixed crowd, but predominantly Mexican, and then like the biggest like basement chud wrestling fans, like the dudes who use the insider terms and like all that shit. And I honestly don't come into contact with that often. It's basically like all the people that our listeners like write in about when they're talking about people they see at wrestling. And I don't really see that for the wrestling shows I go to, but it was like all those types. There was one guy who had an elite forearm tattoo, and it was like fresh, and it was like some logo. It wasn't even like the main logo, but it was like some obscure logo they just put on a t-shirt like a few weeks ago. And it's like, damn, man, that was not a good idea. But so it was that kind of level. But like I said, mostly Mexican people. And they brought all these noisemakers. These dudes brought drums and shit. So I was like, man, this is going to be sweet. And then I saw the beer prices, and it was $7 for a 12-ounce can of Miller Lite, or $8 for a can of Modelo. Like there's a $1 difference between those two beers or something. But I could almost tolerate this if we were in like a real club or a real stadium that had like a real bar. But these are just people selling it out of coolers, basically. And it was kind of disappointing. And I know this isn't MLW's fault, because I don't think they have any control over shit like this, but I probably will never go back to Chicago just based on this fact. I don't even want to talk about how much money I spent. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough where I was like, man, I'm fucking pissed off about this. But like I said, it's not MLW's fault, but it was just like, I'll never go back unless they lower the beer prices. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't want to be I don't know if there's a parking lot. I don't want to be like a dirtbag drinking alone in the parking lot though. So it's just kind of like, I'm just not going to go back. And that's that. Outside of that, then like the same people are selling beer. I assume it's the people that work there. I don't know how the fuck it works, but they had like 18 tables dedicated to selling like Reese's Pieces and cookies. Not like 18 tables worth of that stuff, but just 18 tables that were basically like blocking everything off. And then there is one small table that was MLW's merchandise, which is all terrible. It's just like all either white on black or red and white on black shirts. I don't know if they just had a deal. I don't know if they made them right before they left or something, but I was really underwhelmed by their merch. And then they had like another tiny table where the wrestlers kind of rotated out of. So you never knew who was going to be there selling merch. But so that was kind of weird too. But then the show started. I didn't know exactly how it was working. I knew they were taping for TV episodes, and I knew they were doing something live on the channel they're on in Florida or whatever. So they had like a couple matches, and then they said they were going live. And so the first match during the live thing was the Lucha Brothers and Taurus and Laredo Kid, who are in AAA, and the crowd like fucking they just lost their shit. And this was the third match, and I was just like, this is gonna be like the greatest wrestling event I've ever seen, because people were like losing it. It was like a pretty good match. It was sloppy, but it was like really, really entertaining. I was fucking pumped. And then they were like, we're gonna take a break so we could set up the steel cage, because they were having a steel cage match. And I was like, they're having a steel cage match as the fourth match on a TV taping. And I've only been outside of WWE. I've only been to CZW Cage of Death. That's the only like independent promotion thing I've ever been to that puts up a cage. But if you're not WWE, it takes a really, really long time to put up a cage, like a very, very, very long time. So I was like, maybe they have it figured out. This MLW, they seem to have unlimited money. They book all of these wrestlers and travel around the country. Maybe they have some cool setup to put up a steel cage. Nope. It took just as long as it does anywhere else. It took like 45 minutes.
Yikes.
And I was just like, this is like the fourth match, and they're just going to have like 10 more matches after this. And then they had the match, and Welfs watched it, and he said it was good. Alive, it wasn't very good. It was like an alright match. It didn't seem to need a cage. It was also like 10 minutes long. So they took 45 minutes to set up a cage for a 10-minute long match that had like a weird kind of bad ending. And
who wrestled?
Oh, Tom Lawler versus Low Ki. Tom Lawler is the champion of MLW, and Low Ki is the he was the ex-champion. So this was like their rematch. And I was like, I've stated my opinions about Low Ki on the show before.
Yes.
And I was like, he will redeem himself in my eyes if he does a double stomp from the top of the cage. If he pulls that off, I will love Low Ki forever. It didn't happen. But at the end of the match, this Fatu guy came in and did a splash off the top of the cage. And it was pretty wild because he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Lawler might be dead in real life. Another thing I tweeted that I did not know would get popular, but there was a little boy next to me, like 7 to 10 years old, but I would say closer to 7. He just appeared sitting next to me, and he wasn't Mexican, and everybody else around me was Mexican. So I was like, there's like a little white boy sitting here. I don't see any white parents around. Like, what's going on? And he was just like, I can't remember if it was before or after the cage match, but he's like kind of antagonizing people and stuff like that. And then the cage match started, and he just starts yelling, and he's yelling at Low Ki, and he's saying, get wrecked, bitch. And look, he's just like this 7-year-old kid just going off. I think he like graduated to like get wrecked asshole at some point.
Nice.
Like he was just fucking losing it. And I was like, man, this kid is wild. And then the match ended, and it takes, another 20 minutes to break everything down. So there was more downtime, and I got up to get a beer, and I saw him like near like the concession area, and then I sat back down, and I never saw him again. So I really think this kid just wandered into wrestling by himself unsupervised and sat down for a match just to scream at Low Ki and left, because it was just like such a weird occurrence. But yeah, outside of that, it really dragged, man. There was a million fucking matches. I missed one of the coolest parts because I had to go walk around. And it was, there's this guy, his name is like Jacob Samael or something. He was the guy who used to be the Sheik that bought the NWA title before Billy Corgan bought the NWA. But he's like a real bad guy in this. And he has like a crew. And I guess they did something to Jobbers, and it got the crowd real wild. And they were like throwing water cups and shit, like all in the ring and shit. And, I unfortunately missed that because I was wandering around. And, then fast forward to the Mance Warner, La Parka. That was the main event. It was like a quote unquote death match. It was just more like a hardcore match than what you would say a death match was. And that was pretty fucking wild too. That was, I posted a video of Laparca doing like a senton onto Mance Warner on a table, and it would look pretty nasty, man. Laparca's a big boy now, and he hits him pretty fucking hard. There's another time where he catches him with a chair pretty good, and the chair just keeps going because he threw the chair at Mance Warner and fucking hit him, and the chair just keeps going and comes like inches away just from fucking killing somebody in the front row. It was a pretty wild match. I don't think the cage match and the Lucha Brothers AAA match is up on MLW TV right now on YouTube, but I don't think the death match is up yet. But definitely check that out to just see if the steel cage match holds up, and that Lucha Brothers match is sweet. And definitely check out when they upload the Mance Warner stuff. But outside of that, I might go to MLW on WrestleMania weekend because Welf wants to go really bad. But unfortunately, in Chicago, unless they lower those beer prices, you'll never see me again.
The only thing I have to add is that Laparca caught this full Mance Warner flush with that senton. So if you haven't already, just peep that clip because it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I can't figure out if Laparca does stuff like that because he honestly does not give a shit, or I don't know, like, or he's just, I wouldn't say he's bad, but I don't know. It just seems like he's kind of a reckless guy, I guess you would say, when it comes to stuff like that. So they just announced him versus Masato Tanaka for Spring Break, and I'm pretty pumped to see that because I would like to see another reckless Masato Tanaka match since Mike Awesome is in heaven right now and he can't participate. My last topic, as Al said, we're releasing a t-shirt on Monday. If you hear this on time, it'll be on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I just wanted to do a little inside baseball and say that for the past couple weeks, I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about the glut of t-shirt making that's going on in the world of Instagram and the internet and stuff like that, making all of these wrestler shirts. And I agree. I don't not agree with that. I think it's real shitty. But the other thing is, it's just like the people complaining are also making shirts, and it's just like, just stop then. If you just stop, then it'll be less people making shirts. And I don't know. And between that and the fact that a bunch of people are mysteriously getting their PayPal accounts suspended, all eyes are on this sale for me right now on Monday. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic to sell more shirts because we don't need that. But like, if my PayPal account gets suspended, it's definitely a wrap for us ever selling shirts again, because I will never do it again. But it's still like there are a lot of shirts being made. So I wouldn't say this is going to be our last shirt, but I'd say it has at least a slight chance of being the last shirt. And at least, I don't think we're ever going to be starting to make like monthly shirts or anything like that. We never did. And I would hope to think that people see the difference between the shirts we make and the shirts other people make, not in quality, but just kind of like, we have like a logo and a brand attached to it, and our podcast is attached and everything else. And it's a little different than just making a shirt for a wrestling promotion you like, basically. And that's the other thing. Honestly, that's the other thing I'm hoping is going to keep my PayPal account from being suspended, because like a solid theory is that it's really illegal to do that, to just make like an FMW shirt. You can't do that. And luckily we fall in the artistic gray area of, it's kind of bad what we're doing, but not as bad as what other people are doing. It's not as blatant. There's like a real gray area to what we're doing. And, that's obviously calculated. Like, I would never make a New Japan Pro Wrestling shirt that said that on it, because that's a bad move. Or I would never make a shirt that just said like Los Ingobernables on it. That's also a bad move, even though that starts as a Mexican thing and they have no copyright laws down there. So if you want a safe space, I would say make Mexican wrestling t-shirts. No one's ever going to catch you. So yeah, we will see on Monday how it's going. Like I said, if my PayPal gets suspended, I use PayPal a lot. I use it fucking multiple times a day. So if that got suspended, my world would end, and this would definitely end. I'm not saying we would either stop making merch either, because there's still a couple things I'd like to do, just not t-shirt based. But Al, I talked a lot. How do you feel about all this, the state of the world of t-shirt making?
We've made our mark. And so if this truly is the last one, I can look back at the discography and be completely happy with it. I mean, like you said, like, we started off making these shirts not just because we wanted to wear wrestlers that we loved, but it was just because we wanted to rep our brand. And that's why people buy them, I think, for the most part. I mean, I think people are stoked that like, hey, there's a shirt of X that I want to wear, but also I want to support these two people that have been making this project for the past couple of years. And of course we're appreciative, but I'm cool with it. If that's the last one, I'm not going to cry about it. You know what I mean? People are definitely getting popped. And I mean, even more behind the curtain, I've seen like people that do way bigger numbers than us. And it's not worth the stress for fucking sure, because I know people talk and we see the messages that they get, and it's not worth it to me or Mike to even deal with that. So if this was the last run, then I'm okay with it. I mean, we could definitely dip into the 450 degrees thing again, and Mike and I could probably buy some Civics.
That's the big plan for me. Cashing out with that one, man.
That's fine. That's totally fucking fine.
I will forego my no PayPal rule and just be like, I'll start whatever you need to not buy things. I'll just Venmo people. I'll just make the shirts and ask for people to Venmo me.
Yeah, just Western Union. Just send us some fucking tracking numbers. It would be good to go, man. It's fine. But yeah, dude. How many shirts is it? I think it's 9 or 10. 9 or 10. Yeah, I believe so. If you, it depends if you count the kind of non-canon Japanese pervert shirt. I don't count personally, but I think some people do count it as an official Vrtl Pro shirt. So I wear that shirt all the time around the house. It makes me fucking laugh, man. It's so fucking funny. I think there needs to be more charcoal gray wrestling t-shirts, honestly. Yeah. But like we had said, Monday, if this is the last foray, like please be there early.
To sum up, if you are one of these people complaining about all the other wrestling shirts, I would say either fight the other people that are making the shirts, or just like stop, I guess. I don't know. Or just tell them to stop even. Just be like, hey man, fucking stop. You suck at this. It does wonders for me. So I've made a lot of friends that way, because but sometimes people need to hear it. I don't know, but I do know that in other kind of fandoms, I hate that word, and like other kind of subcultures, when usually people are complaining like that, that usually means it's the beginning of the end. So maybe just cash out now. All you guys who make t-shirts, be like, this is my last one, just like I just did. And, I'm lying the whole time and I'm only doing it to drum up sales. but no, seriously, just be like going out of business sale.
Yeah, this is our new marketing scheme.
Yeah.
We're sick and tired of lying about selling out in 30 minutes, because that's what we do, right, Mike?
It is. It's true. That's pretty much it. It's just the hardcore band kind of trajectory. We're gonna say it's our last one, and then like 3 months later we'll have a reunion shirt, and it'll just be like double the sales.
Oh, I can't wait to pull that one off. It's gonna be so fucking good. Assuming that was your last topic, right?
Yep.
Next up, believe it or not, these are Al and Mike's favorite shoot angles of all time. Please stay tuned.
Relative, I got the bag, tell a friend, she got some ass, bring it in. Bitch, I'm the news, CNN, yeah. Relative, I got the bag, tell a friend, she got some ass, bring it in. Bitch, I'm the news, CNN, yeah. Hey, trippin', bro, they got the TikTok missing. It's pimpin', broke niggas got me lifted. Wow, you Jordan a Pippin. I'm Kobe, I'm never gon' dish shit. I'll miss shit. I'm dissing as fuck and I ain't got the time to just kick it. I don't trust nobody cause I can't be fake. Frontin' ain't an option cause my soul can't change. And I'm tired of being humble, bitch, I feel no way. It's that young nigga shit, I might pull up T.O.B. and slide. Relative, I got the bag, tell a friend, she got some ass, bring it in.
And welcome back to Vrtl Pros, episode 82. Today's topic, it's shoot angles. I brought this up because we're kind of coming off of, I think this happened earlier this week, where Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, they had Twitter aflame with some interactions. It definitely hit all the bullet points of a shoot angle. There was some swearing. I think Ronda Rousey said the word dick, which would never happen on Raw. Someone called someone by their real name. Ronda called Becky Lynch Rebecca, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then someone promised not to abide by the script. And I was like, damn, I haven't really seen this play happen in quite a long time. And so I thought I'd take the time to reflect on our favorite shoot angles. I mean, first off, how do you feel about shoot angles, Mike? Do you like them?
I don't really think about them anymore because it seems like such a thing of the past, but outside of the Ronda Rousey thing, they kind of did it again with Triple H and Batista too. So it's like they're really hammering hard on these shoot angles. So maybe I should start thinking about them again.
Yeah. So my first one, I don't think anyone's ever gonna think about this one, but this is just a personal favorite because, like, in retrospect, it's fucking ridiculous. And that's when Undertaker was at UFC and Brock Lesnar passed him up and he uttered the words, "You want to do it." So this is my number one because, well, for one, I was at this show in Anaheim and, like, the only things I remember was that it was Jake Shields' first fight in UFC. And I was like, man, this guy fucking sucks. Secondly, the Giants locked up the NL pennant against the Phillies. So I was just running up and down Anaheim, just like screaming my fucking face off. And thirdly, Cain Velasquez made Brock Lesnar hit that ballerina. And so anyway, if you haven't seen it, Ariel Helwani of now ESPN fame, he does this not post interview, but an interview with the Undertaker after the Brock Lesnar fight. Brock Lesnar walks past him, and it's pretty masterful, actually. It's 2 minutes. Undertaker says to Ariel Helwani that he felt that Brock needed to train a little harder, and Helwani asked if they were cool, and Undertaker just, he coyly played it off, and he was like, "It's personal." and if you think about it, like, with them, like, having their series of matches with all, like, the fucking, like, hitting each other in the dick, like, what kind of grounds does the Undertaker have to fucking critique a world-class athlete like Brock Lesnar? Who gives him the fucking right? Anyway, this is one of my favorite ones.
And if I recall correctly, it worked because that was before Brock Lesnar was in WWE again, right?
Correct. So they were building up this potential face-off.
And so it was like, and no one was like, oh, he's going to go back there. No one thought that. So it worked in the long run, even though it seemed kind of weird when it happened. But I guess it did work in the long run. And then they have their ball hitting matches.
Yeah.
So mine I would not say they're my absolute favorite because I really thought about this. And the 2 of my absolute favorites, and they're like everybody's absolute favorites, I just don't want to talk about. And I don't know if I'm spoiling anything for Al, but obviously one is a pipe bomb. That's like a big one. And the other one is Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler. That's like the top number one of all time. They've fucking made 8,000 million documentaries about it at this point. So I went with more, I guess, obscure, memorable ones to me. And the first one is, Taz versus Paul Varelans. Paul Varelans. I saw this happened at Hardcore happened in 1996, and they built up to it, for months or however long it was. It's so weird to like think about time back then, because who knows if it was weeks or years or whatever. But I'm pretty sure I was watching in real time. I'm almost positive I was, because I think that was around when I started watching ECW, and it's real strange to look back at it. And I was familiar with UFC. I knew who Paul Varelans was. I knew he was kind of like a bozo in UFC, but he was still like a real fighter.
Yeah.
But I was old enough, I was obviously old enough to know wrestling was fake. I knew that for a long, long time since I was a very little boy. But I was old enough to know better, but I still bought that like Taz was a legit shoot badass somehow. And I don't know why, like trying to think about it, I guess it's just how like ECW sold him. And I was like, he does a lot of suplexes. That's kind of like a technical move. So maybe he is a shoot badass. How long did it take for you to realize that Taz was not a shoot badass, Al?
I think once he started wearing like the mechanic jumpsuit in WWF, I was like, this might not be real.
So even when he came to WWF, you were like, I mean, you were younger than me, so it's probably a little more okay for you to believe it. But so you were still like, oh man, Taz is going to fuck shit up.
Oh, no, in ECW, I thought for real, like, he might be, like, the baddest man alive, like Mike Tyson. Like, that dude fucking dragon suplex Sabu through a fucking table, yeah. And I was like, what kind of monster would do that to another human being? And so Taz was, like, fucking very legit in my eyes.
Yeah, so I don't know how it works. It's probably like anybody who's too young to remember that time is probably just think we sound like idiots, basically.
Yeah, of course.
Because he's such a goof off now, and it's hard to imagine he was a shoot badass at one point. But so I kind of bought into that match thinking it had a slight chance of being real. And of course it wasn't real, but I guess I was like reading up on it, and I guess there could have been some parts that were a little real, because I guess they really wanted to legit make sure he didn't try any funny stuff. So I think like Saturn hit him super hard, and it's possible that Taz actually tried to like choke him out for real and shit like that. And there's also a rumor attached to it that the only reason Paul Varelans agreed to lose to Taz was because Missy Hyatt promised to give him a blowjob.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but that's another rumor. So this match, even though it's like forgettable and no one really ever brings it up anymore, it does have a lot of mystique around it. And it was very strange at the time. And I think as far as I know, it was definitely the first instance of any sort of UFC pro wrestling crossover.
What a perfect segue. My next one. And I think this might have been like one of the first times where I was like legitimately confused about pro wrestling. It was when Jerry Lawler invaded ECW at WrestlePalooza in 1997. Jerry Lawler, I believe he came out after the lights blacked out to Raven and Tommy Dreamer. Or I think Dreamer was about to win it for the first time against Raven in their storied feud. It was a shoot. I believe this is where Jerry Lawler hits Tommy Dreamer in the balls so hard that he had to get fluid drained from them. That's fucking gross, right? Jerry Lawler also drops one of the hottest lines of all time, where he says that this bingo hall should be made out of toilet paper because there's nothing in it but shit. It's so fucking crazy. That's bars. Anyway, like, this was so masterful to me at the time because, like, I think in my head, like you had said, like, who knows how time worked back then? But I think, like, this was on the heels of, like, ECW invading Raw.
Yeah, I can't remember which one happened first, but yeah, it was definitely the same time.
Yeah, and I was like, this is just such a perfect response, and it's probably why, like, I'm such a sucker for, like, interpromotional shit, because, like, it does have a sense of, like, reality to me, at least in my fucking teenage brain. And so I think this is always just going to be one of those angles where I look at fondly, even though I know it wasn't real, but it kind of felt real.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that when I was thinking of that list. But yeah, that would definitely be on my all-time list too, because that whole back and forth was pretty great. And they still tricked everybody into thinking that ECW and WWE weren't working together in the long run. And it was like, they obviously did. But yeah. My next one was at a point where I wasn't even watching wrestling. Like, I may have been watching, like, indie wrestling, but I definitely wasn't watching WWE. But I've always been real into this angle because it was such kind of an odd thing to pull off. But it was when Edge cucked Matt Hardy. And then WWE or WWF or whatever it was, WWE at the time, fired Matt Hardy. And then he was like on the internet and shit, talking a lot of shit about Edge and Lita and stuff like that. And I think that was when he was doing like the suicide videos and stuff like that. And it was like, man, this is some real shit. Like, he's real broken up about this. And then WWE brought him back to wrestle Edge. And even though I wasn't watching at the time, I was like, I don't know, that seems like a bad idea. Like, that might go for real bad. And I don't think it did. And I think in the end, they had Edge win, which is the dumbest idea. If you're literally bringing a guy back that you fired just to be in this money match. And I don't know, that whole thing was pretty crazy because maybe now WWE would play in the shit like that. But at the time, it seemed like it was still when they didn't want to acknowledge anything outside of the world of WWE. And even though he was like an ex-employee, for them to do that, it was pretty wild for the time, I think.
Yeah, it felt so crazy because I remember that one segment where he just got on the mic and I think he was just screaming Ring of Honor or something.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
What the fuck is going on here? So yeah, it felt super surreal like to hear that. I don't know. I'm a sucker for those kinds of things. Anyway, you talk shit about it, but it is the best shoot angle of all time, and that's the CM Punk pipe bomb. I've never seen like a promo. I've never seen a moment where like people that were kind of lapsed did a 180 on that shit. I bought all the fucking Best in the World t-shirts. I watched that promo so many fucking times, and I just remember being in awe, like, watching it, and this has to be the A1, the GOAT shoot angle.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't talking shit on it. This is as far as things that I witnessed in real time, This is probably my number one. Outside of maybe Yeah, I think this, even for me, it beats like the NWO stuff of like Scott Hall just wandering into WCW and shit like that. Because it was, I don't know, I knew deep down it was fake, but for the time period it happened and who was doing it and like what he was saying, it was pretty real. And I still can't believe that WWE kind of like fucking pulled a boner on that and just screwed it up. Because like I've said it probably 20 times on the show in the past, but it seems like that wrestling should have been as popular as like the Stone Cold days after that, and it didn't fucking happen.
Sadly, it didn't, and I know like it's funny to laugh at CM Punk now because he just gets beat up by Mickey Gall, like just gets humiliated in MMA. But I mean, he has this like moment in the rafters, and you can't take that away from him. So.
Yeah, man, he was on like real sports talk radio shows after that because even they bought into it. Like actual media bought into this shit. And that's pretty fucking wild for 2011 or whenever it happened, for actual media to believe in just like a fake wrestling angle. Okay, so my last pick is one that I was there live for, and I talked about it I think earlier in the show. And it's kind of the reverse of the shoot angle thing because it was actually something that was real that I just assumed was fake, and that was a couple years ago at the CZW Cage of Death. Nick Gage stormed the cage after the match was over. And he like, you know, it wasn't like a physical fight. He started talking shit on the mic, and then, you know, people rushed in the ring, and there was kind of like a little shoving, but it wasn't anything crazy. So I was like, this gotta be fake. If this was real, they would be like restraining him or at least throwing punches or something. But they were just like kind of like awkwardly like puffing their chests out at each other. So the whole night I was just like, that was definitely fake. I think I was in the small minority of people that thought this was fake though. So, I think like for the rest of the week and the rest of the month, people confirmed to me that it was definitely real, but I just did not believe it. And it wasn't until very recently that I finally let it go that it was real, but it was just very weird to see something like that. And it didn't really, like nothing really happened, but it was still like an awkward moment.
Wait, was this the show where Tom Strong challenged for the NWA belt or against Magnus? Was that the same show?
It was the same show. That is true. It was a pretty eventful, legendary night. Definitely, if this was still the VHS era, this would definitely be a highlight commercial on the CZW late night show, if there was such a thing, because there was definitely some moments from that show.
Was it a shoot that Billy Corgan shoot left because he was shoot angry?
Supposedly, I mean, that's allegedly. I guess I did get confirmation about that. So yeah, I'm going to say on the show, in exclusive, Billy Corgan definitely left that CZW show because he was upset about the reaction.
Oh man. A lot of shooting that night for sure. A lot of dumping.
Yeah.
Next up, the mixtape. A rare look at locker rooms. Tiger Mask 2, Pac and Daga, and Totokan. Please stay tuned.
Okay, we are back here on episode 82 of Virtual Pros, and this is our last segment, our world-famous mixtape segment. If you're new to the show, each week we both pick a couple of matches or segments or something and put them on our YouTube playlist mixtape, and then go over them. You can find that mixtape by searching Virtual Pros Mixtape on YouTube or searching Virtual Pros and just subscribing to our channel. I feel like you may get notifications, or maybe you don't, but maybe you'll just remember. I don't know. And I try and post the matches a little earlier before we actually record so you can watch and criticize our criticisms at home. So the first match I have tonight is Pac and Daga versus Bandito and Flamita from Dragon Gate. I believe this happened a few weeks ago I chose this match basically because there was like a pretty notable Walter and Pac match that just happened, but it was pulled from YouTube before I had a chance to watch it. So I decided to substitute this because I think this is the first post WWE career Pac match I watched. Is it yours too or no?
It is actually my first like full viewing of Pac post WWE.
Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to mention that when I was at MLW and Daga had his stuff on the table, he has a very convincing but not ironic kind of like bootleg rap style shirt, which is, I don't know, I just think it's very sweet and innocent that he has a shirt that looks like that, and it's probably completely serious. But I do not like Daga enough to want to buy his shirt. Although if I saw this match first, I may have bought it because I like this match a lot. Bandito has a really cool mask. I don't know if this has been done before in Lucha Libre. This kind of mask that has the bandana wrapped around the bottom half like a bandit. But it's a great innovation if it is the first time. There's just like a lot of cool masks these days, and like Psycho Clown's mask is really cool. Aerostar's lights up. Drago's looks like a real dragon. There's so many of them, and it still stands out in that crowd. So hats off to you, Bandito, and your cool mask. If you like flips, this is definitely the match for you. There are a lot of flips going on, and a lot of synchronized flips, and just a lot of it. So if you like flips, definitely watch this match. There's so many different types of flipping moves that are in this match that I've never seen before that it's hard to just like highlight them. But there's one where Bandito, he front flips over the ropes, heading towards the outside of the ring, and he lands his hands to do a handspring on the outside apron. And I just think that is a stupidly dangerous move for basically the same kind of effect as just like jumping over the ropes. But it does, and it looks cooler. It's definitely way more impressive, but man, it just seems like that is a move where something could definitely go very, very wrong, and maybe you should just save that for like your WrestleMania moments. But I don't really know anything about flipping. Maybe flipping is a thing where once you're good, like you're decent at it, you could just do it like it's riding a bike. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's how it is. There's also, Daga does a really weird bridging figure 4 in this that is, I think Charlotte Flair may do like a bridging figure 4 too, but this is just real bananas. There's a, Bandito also does this slingshot backflip thing where he runs to the opposite end of the ropes and slingshots his body off of it, and then does 2 backflips and then another backflip over the ropes. And again, that is really, really dangerous, it seems. And I don't know how or why this guy does it, but it's pretty crazy. And it's the other thing is it's not just him. Him and Flamita also have many synchronized flips and dives outside the ropes and stuff that they do together, which kind of makes me sad because if you guys are not familiar, Bandito signed to ROH and Flamita didn't. And so they could still wrestle in Japan like this, but they probably can't really wrestle in America because their Bandito's exclusive to ROH. So I don't know how often you're going to see them tag again. And that really bums me out because these guys learn synchronized flip moves together. And I assume even if you are a master flipper, it's probably hard to synchronize them together. So they probably spent a lot of time practicing on all these moves, and they can't even use them together anymore. And that makes me really sad. And also I'd like to see him more. I saw him I've seen him once before. So, that was cool, but I wish I saw him more. And also I guess also this match has a very wacky, like double team sort of submission thing that I won't spoil for you if you want to watch this match, but it's one of the wackier submissions I've seen in a long time. I don't know if other people have done it before, but it just looks real wacky. And finally, watching this match and seeing Pac just do all this crazy shit that he was definitely not really doing much in WWE. He might have been doing it, but let's be honest, I don't think many people were watching Neville matches near the end, so who knows if he was doing this stuff, honestly. But it's so strange to me because I am a person in real life that does value art over money, but that is because I don't have a lot of money. So it's kind of like, it's easy for me to say that now, but I've never been in the position where I was like really rich and to see if I could still value art. So it's really hard for me to see somebody like Neville and think that, this guy was probably making the most money in his life in WWE, but he was just kind of coasting and not doing anything crazy. And he decided he wanted to leave and make less money to do harder work. And I don't know. To me, that just seems like it's easy for me to say that as a non-rich person. Like, yeah, I would do that too. But I think if I was in that position, it would be, because I also like being very lazy too. I guess my moral to this is I don't really fault people for wanting to be in WWE because I am lazy. And if somebody told me, hey, you're really good at what you do, but it would be cooler if you did it like less of it, and we're going to pay you like twice as much to do that, I'd be like, that's pretty sweet. I mean, not saying WWE wrestlers are lazy because they do fucking tour so much, and it's kind of ridiculous how much they tour and shit, but they don't have to, I guess, be artistically like intense anymore, I guess you would say. So I don't know. It's a toss up. Al, how do you feel about this? If you hit the high top of WWE, but they were just having you be like opening matches on main event, would you want to go back to the Indies to show your rope walking off?
Not at my advanced age, man. No fucking way. I was just thinking, like, if I could be in someone's spot right now in terms of, like, the least amount of work and getting paid, like, the most amount of money, like, I would be cool being Angelo Dawkins. That wouldn't be that bad, right? Let the other dude, like, do the hard work. I'm just, like, kicking it and catering. It's not like, that bad of a gig.
Yeah, in a way, traveling so much kind of sucks as you don't really have a home. But also, if you're not really doing much, you're kind of just on vacation your whole life, basically. Like, you're doing like a little work, and then you get to see a new city every day.
Yo, for all the young listeners, work smart, not hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how you gotta fucking do it. Be Angelo Dawkins. Doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. Anyway, so I was shocked. This is Dragon Gate, right? I've been to a Dragon Gate. I was shocked that Bandito and Flamita, they got to wrestle here because, like, they're masked. And, like, you can't really show how visual they are. Like, I'm not sure how handsome these two are. Pac's pretty buff. Dog is not a bad guy. I was looking for that rap t-shirt on his Instagram, and he's dating Tessa Blanchard. Ooh, that's interesting. Later on in the match, the assisted tope that Bandito did, it was so sick. And then they did, like, a pair of Spanish flies. And I personally love the Spanish fly. I also love the Canadian Destroyer. So I had a question for you, Mike. I know how you feel about the Canadian Destroyer, but the Spanish fly, it definitely falls under the category of, let me hurt myself real bad. That category of wrestling moves. So how do you feel about the Spanish fly with your feelings of the Canadian Destroyer?
I'm a little more lenient with the Spanish fly. I think the Canadian Destroyer, there's very few times I see it. Teddy Hart has a pretty good one. He may have even invented it. I don't know. He seems to invent a lot of shit, I guess, but his is usually always pretty good. He seems to hit it like a good, but there's people, I see Pentagon doing some and it just looks like he's just laying on his back. So I think unless you're just like on the top tier, it's just, I fucking hate it. The Spanish fly, I'm only like really critical when it takes them like a few seconds to finally do it, and then I'm just like, it takes too long to set this up. But I don't mind the actual motion. I mean, I guess thinking about it, I don't even know what it's supposed to do. I guess you're supposed to land the guy on his face, and that's supposed to hurt or something.
I just think of it like this. Like, no one is going to pick me up and do a backflip. Like, that's not fucking real. So, I mean, for, like, anyone to come at the Canadian Destroyer, but, like, co-sign the Spanish fly, I think you're a hypocrite, personally.
I guess I would like to think that the Spanish fly, the impact of the move is that you're just like, whoa, this guy's flipping me up in the air, and you're so confused. That's what hurts you in the end.
It's like a flashbang, I think. It's not supposed to fucking, like, really hurt your back, but you're just stunned by it.
It's not a power move. Yeah, it's not a power move. It's just, it's like a flashbang.
My last note. This match was cool. Like, it's like watching one of those, like, video game speed runs where you're like, oh, you can do it in this manner. And so, like, there was a lot of innovative offense, but, like, it didn't really, like, emotionally move me in any way. I mean, peep it. I mean, from what I've heard on Twitter, like, Pac's been tearing it up. So I mean, this match shows that he is, but maybe I'll peep that Walter match. Maybe I'll peep that Will Ospreay, because it sounds like those are a little better.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that I'm really high on this match just for all the crazy flipping. I'm not usually the guy who's like, oh man, I love all the flips, but there's just so much weird shit they do in this match that I've never seen before that I definitely think it's a must watch.
I don't know, man. With all of the fucking Toryumon I've been watching these days, I might have to take the dive into Dragon Gate. They're doing some shit out there, right? My first match of the night, my only match of the night, it's Tiger Mask 2 versus Ted DiBiase, All Japan Pro Wrestling, 7/19/1987 at Corkin Hall. If you had to guess, Mike, how old Ted DiBiase was in 1987, what would your guess be?
I would say he looks like an old guy, but he always just reminded me of a guy that I don't know how to explain it. Just like just one of those people that looks like, he's friends with my dad or something. I don't have a dad, but like just one of those things where you're like, it's just like when you're little, it's just like this undisclosed age where they could be 20 or 70 because you don't know. But I would just say if I was a kid, I would guess 35.
33. Before I get to that though, like, yeah, he was definitely like one of those kids like in 4th grade that like kind of had like a 5 o'clock shadow already.
Yeah.
For fucking sure. That's a very old 33. I mean, he doesn't look bad. I bet he was doing okay. Like, he doesn't look too bad. But
the other thing that's weird about this is this is early in Misawa's career, but he kind of like dwarfs Misawa.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, because again, he was in WWF. That's what everybody knows him for. So he's like a way big dude. So he definitely had a 5 o'clock shadow in 4th grade.
Absolutely, man. Probably 6'1" too. Like, he was probably one of those kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really nice to see Joe Higuchi, I guess a big WWF fan. He was dressed as Nails, the prisoner. I thought that was really weird. Also a cameo from a very angelic faced Toshiaki Kawada. He didn't look that menacing here, but I mean, as we all know, he kind of grew up to be kind of a piece of shit. With the matchup, on paper, it's pretty obvious why I picked it. Like, two legends in their own right, facing off kind of, early in their careers. So I was pretty excited to peep it. Spoiler alert, though, it's pretty boring. I kind of feel like half of this match, I think it was like 9 minutes long. It was like half headlocks, and like no one's fucking here for that 30 years later. After this headlock fest, Ted DiBiase, he hits Misawa with like a very, very soft chair shot. It's kind of like similar. It might be even softer than the one Lance Storm gave RVD at Barely Legal. That was kind of weird. I can't really recommend this. It wasn't that great. Kind of bummed about it. But am I wrong here? Was it great or not?
No, this sure does feel like a wrestling match from 1987. It feels exactly like that. It's always weird that there's people on Twitter that I'm sure they genuinely love stuff like this, but it's kind of crazy when they like make a gif of something and it'll be like, look at this crazy drop kick, and it'll be from like a match from 1986. And then you try and watch that match, and then you realize that drop kick was the only cool thing that happened in the match. That's kind of like what this match was like, where it's like Al said, there's the first half of this match is telling the story of who has the best headlock, which is not an exciting story in 2019. It's probably not even really that exciting story of 1987, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I didn't know that Ted DiBiase was kind of in All Japan for a few years. And so I might go back and try and watch something else, but I don't know. This like early to late 80s All Japan, I don't think it's for me. I don't think I've ever seen a match from that era where I was like, yeah, I want to watch more of this. But it's Ted DiBiase, so maybe I'll check it out. Also, so All Japan is also set in like real realism. And I guess if a wrestling match were to be real, they would have a headlock, a battle of the headlocks for a long time, because that seems like a real wrestling thing to do. But at the match ends where Misawa hits, or Tiger Mask hits, like a bridging belly to back suplex on Ted DiBiase, and then the referee counts, but he's so slow to count. It's like takes him 10 seconds to do a 3 count. And for something that's supposed to be real, and the only real impact move of the match was this crazy suplex, and then for the time suplex, and then the referee counts all slow. It ruined like the only pretty decent part of this match, unless you are in the headlock battles. And yeah, and I just wanted to take this time to tell a story about Ted DiBiase that I heard on the Colt Cabana podcast. I think it was a Colt Cabana podcast. I'm pretty sure, because I don't know where else I would hear wrestlers talking on a podcast, so it had to be Colt Cabana. But he said on the Colt Cabana podcast that he ran into the boy who he knocked the basketball out of his hands, that I've talked about on the show before, in an old WWF promo, where he tried to pay a kid like $100 to bounce a basketball 20 times, and then he hits it out of his hands like on 19. And so Ted DiBiase said he met this kid on like later on in life, just like randomly, and the kid told him it inspired him to become a basketball player. and Ted DiBiase doesn't mention like a team or anything like that. He just says inspired him to become a basketball player. And I just want to say on this show that Ted DiBiase, you are such a fucking liar. There's no way you randomly bumped into this kid fucking 20 years later, 30 years later, and he became a basketball player. This is just such a bullshit story. Ted DiBiase is a man of God. He's going to go to hell for this. But I understand, you know, that's kind of what people know him for being a dick in WWF. So maybe he's just trying to, I don't know, just make his, you know, tie up loose ends, I guess you would say, and make it seem like he was a good guy in the end, and he really inspired this kid by being awful or something like that. But I don't think so. I think you're just a liar, Ted DiBiase, and you should come clean. My first non-match of the night is an old video. It's a backstage look at NWA in the 1980s. This was originally uploaded to the internet, I don't know, like probably like 6 or 7 years ago at this point. It's been a while, and I think it's pretty infamous. I think a lot of people have seen it, but if it was like 6 or 7 years ago, there's probably like a whole new crop of wrestling fans in the past few years that maybe missed this. And I do think it's something, like if you're into like weird voyeuristic shit, I think this is a really cool piece, especially about wrestling. And also, this other video got like unearthed this week or last week, called Plan B, which was like a bunch of old men or not old men at the time, but like old wrestlers like Ron Garvin and Cowboy Bob Orton and people like that, just guys like grandpa age guys. And they're just talking about, you know, like how wrestling was fake, but it was back then. They made this video as like this way to, I don't know, protect their asses from other promotions or some weird thing. So it's just these men for 20 minutes, like somberly talking about how they've never had like a real wrestling match in their lives. And it's really compelling and interesting, but I don't think it's compelling and interesting to talk about on this show. So I left it off, and I was like, this is the next best thing, this NWA backstage tape.
I don't mean to interrupt, but Plan B is a very, very misleading title, especially if we're going to have dudes talk about it and be somber. Just saying.
Yeah, it's true. So this tape, if you guys don't know, is kind of like a backstage look from the lens that Al told me yesterday from Jimmy Jam Garvin. Yeah. Before yesterday, I just thought it was a random man named Jim, but like Jimmy Jam Garvin was backstage. Apparently probably with like a new camcorder he just bought in I'm going to roughly say this was in 86. It seems like this was probably 1986 that he just bought, and he's just like filming a video of what people are doing backstage at an NWA show, basically. And so the first thing you see when the camera starts is a very yacked up Dr. Death Steve Williams. He is out of his mind on cocaine. I know there's a lot of people that use people being high on cocaine as hyperbole to just say how manic they act, and they probably weren't on cocaine, but 100% in my mind, Steve Williams is on cocaine in this video. He's like very loud, and then, you know, they kind of roll into another room, and it's the Road Warriors. Sting is there, but Sting is kind of chilling, kind of not in the ruckus. I can't remember who else is there. There's a couple more wrestlers. Lex Luger's there, and they're all kind of like acting like children, just like doing childish shit that is just like, no, I don't think no adult would do unless they were on cocaine, basically. Yeah. Like Hawk or Animal. Yeah, Hawk is like, he's like, look at this. And he's like sitting in a chair, and he like falls backwards on purpose. It's like a pratfall. And it's like, who would fucking do this shit unless you're just fucking high out of your mind? So that's pretty cool to see. I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Dr. Death, but they're like secretly filming one of like the backstage doctors talking to somebody. And Dr. Death says, he says, see the doctor over there? He's a heroin addict. But he doesn't say it in a joking manner. He's saying everything else. He says it very seriously. So either this man was really a heroin addict and Steve Williams was fucking snitching on this guy on videotape, and then it was unearthed 30 years later, or that was just a really real dry, dark humor by Steve Williams. So either way, it was pretty cool. Eventually, we run into Art Anderson, and I forgot to mention that this tape is very poor videotape quality. I think the original, when this was originally uploaded to the internet, I think it was a little clearer, but now it's just like completely muddy. If you didn't have like a keen eye, you probably couldn't even make out half the people I'm mentioning. But Arn Anderson rolls up, and they're kind of having like a small chit chat, him and Jimmy Garvin. And then at one point, Arn Anderson says, are other people going to see this, or is this just for the boys? And Jimmy Garvin said, this is just for the boys. So Arn Anderson turns around and pulls down his pants and spreads his cheek and shows like his whole butthole, like just like right there. And then he just pulls his pants back up and just turns right back around like nothing happened. And it was just a weird move to see. I'm very glad that you can't see really anything. You can't really see the butthole if that's what you're looking for. Although I do think it would make an excellent t-shirt. So if anybody has like a crystal clear version, like a crystal clear rip of this tape, or maybe you have the master of this, Jeff Lynch, are you out there? Do you have the master tape of the NWA 1980s backstage video? Because I think we could make millions off of a Arn Anderson butthole t-shirt. So we gotta seek that out. So Jim Cornette, they get over to Jim Cornette. Just to summarize, this guy, I don't know how, he's very young here. Even though when I was that age, I would have thought that man was 50 years old, but he's probably like 22 or something. He's so young. But he's just so good at talking. Like he sounds like a pro stand-up comic. And I don't know if he's just playing it up for the cameras or that dude is just like always on or something, but I don't know, man. I think this guy could have maybe even become richer if he did something else besides wrestling. So good for him for loving wrestling so much he wanted to do this. They show Dusty Rhodes for a couple minutes, and he's like the most chill dude in this video. He's the only person who's kind of just like, I'm cool, man. I don't need to do all weird shit. So he probably wasn't doing cocaine. This, like I said, this video is probably 1986, and there's a part where they name drop Dave Meltzer, and that was wild to me. Like, I know Dave Meltzer was doing stuff back then, but to think that even like back then, like Hall of Fame, world-class wrestlers knew him and like knew his deal is just pretty wild to me. And it's just like reason number 7 million when people go at that dude. It's just like, come on, man. Like fucking Road Warrior Hawk was talking about Dave Meltzer in 1986. I don't like, just leave him alone, man. And yeah, I mean, that's about it. There's other shit that goes on in this video, but you should really watch it. It's 20 minutes long. If you're into stuff like this and you've never seen it, this is like a must watch. But Al, what are your notes?
Yeah, I feel like it's been longer than like 6 or 7 years. I feel like I saw this like a decade ago for some reason. I don't recall seeing Arn Anderson's butthole in HD quality, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that good, obviously. So like, my first note was like 4 minutes in, and that was because beautiful Bobby Eaton, he's walking around like clear as day wearing like a very lime green short sleeve polo tucked into some like poom poom shorts. Like it was like super normal. And I was like, man, that's just the world of pro wrestling. That's what fucking happens. Yeah, fucking Turnt Hawk, exactly as I imagined. Turnt Dr. Death. I'm not surprised, but not entirely. Both these guys though, Mike, would you party with them? Cause to me, they're humongous and they're like hitting those slopes apparently pretty hard. I would be horrified to party with them. Would you?
Yeah, dude. I think definitely when I was younger, definitely not.
Yeah. And
now definitely not. I don't think they're too big. They're too big and crazy.
I'm saying, man, like you would definitely like get put on someone's shoulders for the Doomsday Device, no doubt about it. And they would probably shoot dude for real. You might like end up like fucking Henry Godwin out on the injured reserve for years if you party with these two. For real, for real. I was wondering though, you said Sting was pretty chill. He was doing his fucking makeup, but I couldn't really confirm whether or not he was high. What do you think?
I don't think he was. I think he was. I don't want to say he was bothered, but I imagine when you're kind of a straight dude.
Yeah.
I know how it is. Like, you're like, if a bunch of drunk dudes around like a straight dude or a bunch of high dudes, that's not a fun time. So he's probably just like, if I go with the flow, it'll be fine.
Luger, though, I feel like this is like Luger's first time doing drugs. That dude is like, I don't know how to describe how he was. I thought it was hilarious, though, that Paul Ellering, manager of the Road Warriors, he could not be bothered to hang out, and he was just outside, like, reading in the dark, I believe, an issue of Alaska Magazine. I guess he was going on a trip to the Yukon or some shit, and he was like, nah, I'm not trying to hear fucking two dudes sing, row, row, row your boat, to each other. So I respect that. Yeah, Mike alluded to it, but Arn Anderson, aka Marty Lund, he talks with his butt, and I was like, oh shit, that's probably why Lashley does it. I've also noticed though that like, I've acquired some VHS tapes over the past couple months, and a lot of them, they do like these segments where wrestlers are just like in their normal habitats, and there's always like a scene where dudes are naked, and I feel like this is just like a universal language with wrestlers. They're just like, you know, it's not that big of a deal to not wear a t-shirt in front of thousands of people. I'm just gonna show my fucking asshole to everybody. Like, it's completely fucking fine. I can never get used to that in the workplace. So, you know, it's just something I've noticed. Like, I feel like wrestlers seem very comfortable being nude around one another. Yeah, Mike had this pegged as being around 1986, and I think he might be right. I think it's Stan Lane that asked Jimmy Jam if that camera had zoom and sound like it was a fucking spaceship. And that was pretty fucking funny to hear. My last question for you, Mike. If you had to name 3 locker room vids in this style that you'd want to watch, what would you go with?
I had a little more time to think about it this time.
Yeah.
And I still can't pinpoint. It would definitely be WWF in the 1980s, and I don't even know, just something else in the 1980s, just at a point where we are at the greatest excess of a decade, and wrestlers are still allowed to do drugs openly. That could be amazing. My third answer, though, I was thinking about today because I was watching it, definitely the $5 wrestling locker room. I think that would be... People know my interests outside of wrestling. It's a lot spending hours, countless hours watching weird people on YouTube. So to see that in real life would just be that I could stop watching YouTube if I got to do that.
It has to be for me ECW in the mid 90s, no doubt about it. FMW. Now, All Japan would be kind of a trip, actually, seeing like what those guys would go through after those matches. I think there was a clip of like Misawa. It looked like, cause like his neck got so fucked up during that run where like dudes were just like laying on top of him and like pulling his neck from his shoulders and shit. Cause he just couldn't like deal with like the pain. That'd be kind of like a really crazy inside baseball look. My third one, I'm not going to say Stardom. I'm not going to fucking say that at all. So don't make that joke, Al. I'm just going to go with those two.
Okay.
Maybe All Japan 92. Who fucking knows? Manami Toyota. I know you're listening. Last video of the night. Not a wrestling match as well. It's about Totocon. I've been meaning to watch this video. I think it dropped a couple weeks ago for the mixtape, and here we are. It's about 10 minutes. It's brought to us by Cultaholic, which, to my understanding, is a pretty famous British YouTube channel. So my expectations for this are pretty high. You know, the production quality is pretty good. Kind of makes me wish like I took up video editing. And so if we got some video editors out there, hit me up. Like, I want to learn some tutorials. I just got the Adobe Cloud for my work. And so, maybe I'll fucking dabble. We'll see. Maybe that Instagram will take like a crazy turn. If I can learn some editing. Mike, what's your favorite Totocon purchase?
Definitely my Super Dolphin. I mean, it's Osaka Pro, but the whole group of Osaka Pro clock. That is, it's, you know, it's not a one of a kind item because there are more out there, but I don't think many people would want it. So
Yeah.
and I'm glad to have it.
Is it operational?
Yeah, I don't keep the batteries in it though because it's too loud. I don't like I don't like clocks, and I don't like clocks that make noise, but I like that clock.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man.
Yeah.
I have too many. There's a Tajiri shirt that I got for like $9. Probably the Super J Cup poster. That was a fucking steal. So the founder of this store, Takashi Izumi, I thought this dude was like 95 years old because like anyone that tries to buy back Ricky Dozan merch and like flip it, like you have to be like a real like head to do that. This dude's, I think, in his mid 40s. So like, man, he must have started off really young. But yeah, I think the secret's out on Todokan. You know, it's definitely like the definitive place, the definitive online store for merchandise. And, you know, to this day, it's still crazy to me that like no one in America can replicate this model of like, I have some capital. If you want to just get rid of all of like your shame, I'll buy it off you and then I'll flip it for double. And no one's been able to do that in America. But, you know, in Tokyo, like this store has been around for I think it's been around for, I think it was 2 decades, he had said.
Yeah, it's like 15 years or something.
Yeah, so close to 2 decades. I've been shopping there for a couple of years, and so like I guess overall, like I thought this video was pretty informative. I do think that one of the most stunning scenes in this vid, they cut to like this clip of Kurt Angle's used mouthpiece. Todokan is selling that for 189,000 yen, which is a little under $1,700. I feel like I can use $1,700 a lot more wisely than buying Kurt Angle's mouthpiece. But the thing that freaked me out the most is that someone who's going to buy that is going to put it in their mouth. And that's horrifying. What'd you think about this video, Mike?
Yeah, like Al said, it's kind of strange that there isn't really a store like this in America. There's a place called Wrestling Universe in Queens that's like the closest I know of, but it's mainly action figures and old autographs and then like old magazines, and then the rest is kind of just like whatever. But they don't do the shirts, they don't do the actual wrestler use stuff, the weird shit, like all the stuff in between. They do have some tapes and DVDs, but who's buying those? But
me.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just because I think it's easier if you're in Japan and you're a wrestler traveling through, you're probably gonna pass by there.
That's true.
It's like if you're in America, it doesn't matter. Like even if Pro Wrestling Tees in Chicago was the place where the Todokan of America, you know, you're only gonna get shit when people come through Chicago. So it's like, you know, it's kind of hit and miss. Plus, I think, I don't know, Al, you're more into this world, but it feels like more Japanese just kind of save their shirts and never wear them. Like,
no, absolutely. Like I've gotten like t-shirts like still in plastic, still with like the tissue backing behind this like perfectly folded shirt. And yeah, I think people just buy these shirts like to remember a time as opposed to just to wearing them and beating them up and like washing their car with them, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that the Japanese have a little more reverence for the shit that they buy.
And you'll get like a promotion shirt and it's just paper thin because they know no one's going to wear it. Like, so that's pretty cool. I think, you know, people should start training American wrestling fans. Wrestlers out there, and promotions that are listening, you really need to start training your fans to just be like, just use this $20 shirt as a souvenir. You don't need to wear it, so you can buy a small. You know, you could buy a quadruple extra large. It's okay. You shouldn't wear this anyways. You should keep it as, let me sign it. You know, just do that. That's a real good way to sell t-shirts, I think. Yeah. So yeah, this guy, as Al said, he's not that old. I think he says he's 43 and he started the store when he was 30 or something. So I guess it was 13 years. And it made me feel real depressed that this guy started the Ultimate Wrestling store when he was only 30 years old. But it's kind of strange because, like Al said, it also seems like it should be a 95-year-old man because it seems all his interests are from, you know, before. I would say, actually, I don't know. Inoki was around forever, but he's like super into Inoki, and he mentions him many times as being his favorite wrestler and in his favorite match and blah, blah, blah. And then they ask him, like, what is one of the best items he has in the store? And of course, he says like an Inoki robe. And it's priced at $45,000, and that just seems like an insane amount of money for one robe that was worn in one match. And I think that's just like a sentimental pricing. I think he just
has to.
Yeah. I think he just wants to keep it in the store and no one's ever going to buy it at that price, man. That is a ridiculous price. But again, I don't know how popular Inoki was in Japan. You know, I have a feeling about it, but I don't know. I didn't live in Japan in the 70s and 80s, so I couldn't tell you. But, you know, so maybe prove me wrong out there. Maybe that is a good price, but I don't think it is. Another story he tells that I find kind of funny is that he's telling this story and he's setting up like it's going to be like this epic, like, ending to the story about getting in this tiger mask that was ripped in half, and he's making it sound like he's going to talk about how like one half of the mask came in like 1 year, and then 5 years later the other half of the mask came in. But no, he just ends the story with they both came in at the same time. I was very happy. And it's just like, oh, so, you know, the one guy owned both halves of the mask. That's not really an exciting story, but thank you for telling it. Finally, I am kind of rather upset. I'm not really that familiar with Cultaholic. I know they just kind of make videos. I try to watch, they had like a Randy Savage video. I try to watch it. It was super boring. It's just like, I don't know, but I think they do stuff outside of wrestling. So this is more for, they're probably aiming towards a more casual wrestling fan or just a casual fan of videos. So I think if you're going to talk about Totokan, that you should at least get into the perversion part and talk about kiss cards and selling like used parts of women's clothes and weird Polaroids and shit like that. And they never get into that. I know it's only a 10-minute video, but you know, I think casual people, I think their ears would perk up if you explained the facets of a kiss card to them. And yeah, that's about it. I think if you're interested in merchandise or anything like this is a really great video. And yeah, it's good. Watch it.
That was my thing too. Like I've been shopping them for years. Like it would be sick to like talk to the buyers. Like how do you verify that Mayu Iwatani wore these shorts? Like there has to be a verification process. I mean, they're obviously charging like thousands of dollars for these used items. Maybe Japan's just like too respectful to like finesse the Totokan buyers. But there has to be some kind of safeguards in place to like prevent fake kisses from being bought back, I would think.
I could be completely wrong. The kiss cards are obviously being manufactured usually by a card company or whatever, but the clothes, I just always assumed like Totokan's the first place to get them in the first place. So they probably have a log of all of the used women's clothes out there, all the used women's wrestler clothes. They probably have a huge blue book just full of fucking records of this shit, because I just always assume the wrestlers pass on the stuff to them, and so they know about it.
Oh, okay.
But I could be wrong. I don't know. Again, that's another thing I don't know about. I don't know about the used clothing pipeline in Japan, but I always assumed it started with them.
That makes more sense. If like Io Shirai was coming through, I guess that would be like the ultimate verification that the shit was legit. But
or who knows? They could be ripping people off too. They could just be saying this shit. They could just be going straight to the store, buying a woman's skirt and being like, yeah, fucking Kairi Sane wore this. It's $5,000.
Totokan, come on the show. Fucking prove us wrong, motherfuckers. Anyway, that was episode 82 of that World Champion Sound Virtual Pros. Instagram and Twitter, VRTL Pros. Hit us on SoundCloud. Hit us on iTunes. Hit us on Spotify. Join us on Monday for the second collaboration tee with the world famous Drug Dogs. Mike, any last words?
Hey, thanks. I'll see you on Monday, I guess.
Be there on time. Serious. Peace.